Now that The Last Jedi has run the gamut from Hollywood blockbuster to humble Blu-ray release, how do you feel like its reputation has panned out? Time heals all wounds. I mean, just look at an entire generation of people who'll defend the prequels. But revisiting past issues brings about all sorts of conversations, especially when we're talking about one of the most controversial films in recent memory. Still, rant and rave all we want, and you can check our launch week coverage for some incredibly in-depth discussions and arguments. Do it. This is the second installment of the sequel trilogy, and it's not going anywhere. Now, before we get started, of course, I'm not a Hollywood director, nor anything close to an acclaimed professional. The greatest respect goes to Rian Johnson and all who worked on the film. No matter what you think of The Last Jedi, you have to give it to the guy for being so confident, so steadfast, and so determined to deliver his version of a Star Wars film. All the same, it doesn't mean anyone has to like it. And with that in mind, I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 simple fixes to improve Star Wars The Last Jedi. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done. Also note, full spoilers from here on in. Number 8, make the Praetorian Guards the Knights of Ren. This didn't need to be a major plot point, but including the Knights of Ren in some fashion would have at least made The Last Jedi feel like a natural continuation of The Force Awakens. My way of implementing the Knights comes from the first scene with Kylo and Snoke, back aboard the Supremacy. Snoke is discussing how Kylo is a rabid cur, and how he could be a problem.
A cur's weakness, properly manipulated, can be a sharp tool.
Right here, instead of the camera staying on Snoke's face, have it pan over the Praetorian Guards by his side, as Snoke discusses how these angry young minds are assumedly more easily swayed. It'd be more than enough for the fans to connect the dots, and The Last Jedi's visual dictionary could have confirmed any resulting fan theories. Number 7, recut Luke's lightsaber toss. Now bear in mind this needs to be a simple fix, i.e. we can't remove Luke tossing the saber as it's an intentional metaphorical action that solidifies his attitude towards the Jedi Order and the beginning of his arc in the film. We can cut around it though. There's already footage of Luke holding the lightsaber, Rey looking inquisitive and then confused. We just need a reshuffle and one new shot. Keep the slow shot of Luke holding the lightsaber with the slow zoom, and the expression of contemplation on his face. You then cut to the reaction shot of Rey looking confused from after the throw in the movie, as in my version, go from Rey's expression into a new close-up of the ground where Luke's lightsaber hits and rolls through center frame. Go back to the wide shot of Luke walking away past Rey, and we're done. The audience thinks, did he just... Rey is perplexed, Luke retains the seismic power of discarding the lightsaber, and the confirmation of where the weapon ended up can still come later on. All of this in a way that doesn't feel like a Saturday Night Live sketch. Number 6, the space gravity issue. There are 2 parts to this that tend to annoy people, but one of which I can answer. First up, the bombs from the opening scene. Though yes, they're seen dropping through space, they first begin building momentum from inside Paige Tico's ship through simulated gravity. It can be assumed then that they continue through space because of this. To be honest, that's more than enough for me. The arcing bolts at the end though, they're more of an editing mistake. This gives the impression of an arc through space, despite obviously there not being any gravity. The fix is editing these blaster bolts so they fire straight, and then boom, no more gravity issues. Number 5, use ACKBAR for the Kamikaze instead of HOLDO. Granted, this is a little more than editing, but damn it, ACKBAR should have capitalized on his immortal memeness by being granted a fitting send-off. Instead, we got the utterly personalityless Admiral HOLDO piloting the Raddus directly into Snoke's ship and its accompanying dreadnoughts. A hero moment that if it was given to literally anybody else, might have been remembered for something more than visuals. For the Admiral, we don't need him to do much else in the movie. His shtick is showing up for one big scene anyway. So when Holdo and Leia are discussing the need for someone to fly the lead ship, have him volunteer. Holdo can still stay behind for the sake of tying off her character, but keep the majority of shots on ACKBAR. Admiral ACKBAR is a walking quote that entire generations love to pay tribute to across a variety of media.
It's a trap!
He should have been given a way more fitting send-off. Number 4, reshoot Leia's fake death / flying scene. Oh god, this thing.
I'm very popular, y'all!
The problem isn't necessarily with flying Leia, it's more the way that the sequence is shot. That cut to the wide angle where she starts to move in tandem with the score just looked and felt a bit naff. It's the moment many audiences reportedly laughed or sniggered. I mean, that's what happened in my screening, and I think it could be edited better whilst keeping the essence of what's happening intact. Lose the close-up of her getting blown out of the airlock for a start. Leave it in our minds as to whether she survived the explosion that comes from Kylo's backup squad. Then, after the battle, show her in space, slowly drifting, neither alive nor dead. Cut to that close-up of her hand as she starts flexing her fingers and the stars start to move, like how her movement is portrayed in the movie. Hold this shot as the background starts to speed up and she begins to move, letting the accompanying score hammer home the magnitude of what we all now know is Leia's first big Force moment. Utilizing the wide shots is where it gets hard, but I think cutting to them after the music has swelled would look and feel way better. Go from this close-up of the hand to the reaction shot of Finn, Poe, and Connix looking out the window, and then finally to the wide shot where Leia comes in to land. Hopefully, this wouldn't be as comical as watching her soar past the camera like Mary Poppins. Number 3. Luke and Kylo clash lightsabers in the final duel. Here's a joke. What do you call a Star Wars movie without a clash of lightsabers?
Rogue One?
What? No! The Last Jedi! Now, obviously in the pursuit of innovation and progression, certain expectations and conventions of any established thing should be challenged. What really didn't sit well in The Last Jedi, though, was how Luke versus Kylo boiled down to the former dodging every blow instead of having a proper duel. Why? Because another plot twist needed to happen. Now, I and many can live with this being the case, but Luke's limbo mastering 90-degree backbend into an awkward CG pirouette wasn't great. Why couldn't we have had the final swipe that separates the pair and leads into Luke's monologue be a clash of lightsabers? Even taking the projection twist into account, we know that physical properties can be applied to force projections as the dice Luke gives to Leia fall to the floor and get picked up by Kylo. If nothing else, it would reinforce how much of Luke's power is being used to maintain the illusion, giving further reason as to why he had to die at the end. Number 2, cut all the goofy comedy. There is a lot of really goofy, awkward crap comedy in The Last Jedi, and it feels right out of the Disney guidebook on how to doctor scripts to make them more fun, yay edition. Face-planting Hux, the reach-out comment being taken literally, Finn's pratfall when first waking in the Bacta suit, Luke's, alright that is pretty much nowhere, reply to Rey saying she's from Jakku, ditch all of it. The movie simply doesn't need these scenes or any tone-shattering gags. A general sense of adventure and levity still comes from the way every other scene is shot. You know, like every other action movie in history? The comedy annoyed far more people than it worked on, and The Last Jedi would be infinitely better without it. And number 1, give Luke his green lightsaber. The easiest of the fixes, why wasn't Luke's lightsaber at the end green? Keeping it blue almost gave away the force projection twist, as we literally just seen Kylo and Rey tear apart Anakin's lightsaber only minutes beforehand. We know he has the green saber because he almost murders Kylo with it during the flashbacks. So where was it in this final scene? Blue-sabered Luke versus green is a debate for the comments, but in terms of chronology, why wouldn't he use what is literally his weapon first seen in Return of the Jedi? Change the color of the blade, and we're good.
Well, would you look at that? You got all the way to the end of the video, and your mother said you'd amount to nothing. What are the chances? While you're here, why not watch one of our other many, possibly quite good channels, or watch another video which will be largely in the same vein as the quality content you've just endured. Go on then.